Good afternoon, guys. This is Anthony P., your coach and contributor for the DFS Army. I hope everyone's doing well. I want to continue today something similar that I did yesterday in terms of a video by looking at the slate and looking at our DFS and betting model from Beat the Bookie. And today, maybe I want to throw in a little bit of analytics and also some live data from Vegas and seeing what the sharps are betting, what the public is betting, and mixing all of that together and seeing where our spots are going to be tonight. I want to take a look at the matchups, but for the sake of time, I want to go really quickly over these games. There are a couple of teams that are very obvious to be starting to build. Our build is going to be starting from those teams. There are others that could be a little bit sneakier, and we'll take a look at the betting model after and seeing if there's any other opportunities. Excited to see Buffalo tonight against a well-rested San Jose team. I don't have much expectations about this game. I don't know in what direction this is going to be. What I could tell you is that rested dogs on the road, rested favorites on the road in the past have hit and won over 64% of the time, going back to 2005. This year, that model is not doing too well. We've got Kane coming back to Buffalo, wanting to smash everyone. Buffalo's one of the hottest team, one of the hottest goalies. Jones sucks. The sharps are betting San Jose heavily. We'll look at that on the Vegas screen in a couple of minutes. So I've got so many mixed feelings on this game. My potential interest in this game is going to be Kane. But apart from that, there's nothing else in terms of DFS that I'm going to be focusing on this team. Philadelphia Flyers, data says it all. There's nothing to be really excited about them when we're looking at how they've been dominated in terms of Corsi. This team is just confusing to follow. I just don't like the Flyers. I've never really liked them. But in cash tonight, if you don't have a couple of them, you're either going to look like a hero if nothing happens, or you're going to look like a zero because, you didn't follow the chalk. That's going to be extremely high in terms of, players such as Couturier. That's really cheap on both sides, and guys like Giroux, who's got tremendous upside to score a couple of goals against a very, very leaky Ottawa team on a back-to-back with on a road back-to-back with a backup goalie. Game number 2, that's going to carry tremendous ownership. Tampa Bay Lightning, one of the best teams at home in terms of playing defensively against a team who can't score. Kucherov is extremely hot, 14 points in the last 6 games. Stamkos is cheap on DraftKings and gets you exposure to Kucherov. So these two teams right here, something that I don't do much on big slates is correlate or have 2 players from the same team. The upside is so high that potentially tonight I'll have no other choice than going with a Couturier and Giroux and going with a Stamkos and a Kucherov on DraftKings because of the upside and the reward that could be presented to us. Interesting game over here with teams that shoot a lot and that give up a lot of shots. It's going to be very interesting to see how this is going to pan out. Carolina hasn't been doing too well in terms of Corsi 4 in their last 2 weeks. So correction, they don't allow that many shots. They shoot a lot, but Montreal takes a lot of shots on goal. So it's going to be interesting to see Price and McElhinney in it and see how they're going to manage that volume, which that makes them interesting in GPPs here, just in terms of the shot volume that could be sent to them. So this is going to be an interesting game that I'm really going to be looking at. Another game that's going to be really interesting that's potentially going to drive a little bit less ownership than the Flyers and the Lightnings is Minnesota. Ranta's been one of the best goalies going back to last year. So we can't really underestimate him. This could be a game that could easily be a 2-1, 3-1 kind of game. Or we could have Minnesota just blowing them out, which it is possible. But again, there's Ranta in that. He hasn't been doing too well since he got back. But again, a game where I can't see a clear path of how it could be with 2 of the best teams in terms of PK. So at what level do special teams come in effect here? So I'm going to be careful on my exposure on Minnesota. Interesting game here. Vegas is just warming up, won 5 in a row. If I recall, he got Fleury here and his Krispy Kreme donuts. That's giving him all the best luck. 2 shutouts in a row, over 10 DK points. in the last 2 games. It's a Chicago team that doesn't score much. Potentially one of the best games of the evening. If there's a game that you want to watch, Pittsburgh has been playing much better on the road this year versus last year. Lane is on fire, but way too expensive. This is going to be a really, really difficult game. Discipline is going to be key for both teams. Salaries that are going to be difficult to fit in cash for me tonight, because we've got players a lot cheaper in better spots. So I'm not going to be focusing much in this game in terms of cash. So I'm going to be skipping this. Not too sure what to expect here other than Nashville being 10-0 in the last 2 years against Colorado, but this could change tonight, making Colorado maybe an interesting GPP approach. Colorado 1 is hot. Yes, they're much better at home than on the road, but Nashville hasn't been playing too well defensively the last couple of games, and they're missing their best checker in Edverson, and Subban's not there. So this is going to be an interesting game. Not too much exposure here for me in terms of cash. Another great matchup over here, fast-paced game. Not too sure what to expect from Edmonton. Every time they got a great game, they pull a stinker. Hard to really gauge on any type of momentum. Edmonton won with Draisaitl and McDavid. Should have a lot of success against Dallas tonight, but McDavid's too expensive. Draisaitl's potentially the best on FanDuel to have some exposure on him. But again, some better spots I think that we could focus on in cash this evening, and potentially the snoozer of all snoozers for tonight. Potentially also, again, we'll fall asleep in the first 5 minutes of this game, but I'll make sure to stay up and see if Kopitar is going to be playing any better. He's cheap on DK. Based on his performance, I find he's still a little bit too expensive on FanDuel, but he played a really great game last game, and we got to keep an eye on that going forward. So we've got our teams that we want to target, or at least a couple of teams that we've spoken about, and I want to go to our betting model here. Please watch the video of yesterday where I break down exactly what these are: money line analysis, over/under analysis, and team total analysis. I'm just going to focus today at looking at the team total analysis, and I like to really rank our teams from the Vegas totals. So we've got the Flyers that are dominating at 3.9, and we've got Tampa Bay dominating at 3.7 implied team scoring for tonight's slate. And then we got a bunch of guys that are tied at 3.2, so we've seen some movement over here. The Jets are getting some volume here. They went up by about 0.4 points in their team total. But at the last update, we've got a bunch of guys at 3.3. And then I like to compare it with the betting and DFS model. So first place and second place, same as Vegas. We're anticipating 4.61 goals for Philadelphia tonight compared to 3.9, and we're anticipating 4.28 goals versus 3.7 for Tampa Bay. So in terms of cash, this is where we're going to start and build our core of players. This is where we're going to be focusing. When we're looking at maybe GPP opportunities, it becomes interesting when we're looking at Minnesota at 4.15 goals, which is almost a full goal over what the model is anticipating. So hopefully people are going to be focused on Philadelphia and Tampa Bay in GPPs, where this team could be sneaky. There's also some value on the money line. Minnesota should be priced a lot higher. And then we've got also Nashville. That's pretty interesting here, almost a full goal over. So when we're looking at GPPs, this for me tells me these teams might be a little bit less owned in GPPs, maybe even in cash, they'll have less exposure. The model is anticipating over 0.95 and over 0.74 goals from the Vegas implied team total. That could be a great opportunity for us to target. When we're looking at some analytics, we're going to take a quick look at Philadelphia in those last 2 weeks, and we're looking at Corsi 4, which is the amount of shots attempts versus the other teams. we're seeing that they've been completely dominated in their last 6 games in the last 2 weeks. However, they found a way to dominate Toronto. Go figure. I don't understand. You always want to look at this Corsi 4 percentage at over 50%. The best teams right now are close to 53, 54%. I don't put too much weight in this. However, I am going to look at it just to get an idea if I should maybe over or under expose. In this case, I'm just going to be rolling with Philadelphia in cash and follow the chalk and the model, because if I'm not there with the rest of the field, it's going to be very difficult for me if Philadelphia goes off. In terms of high danger chances for, again, we're seeing that they're dominated against all their opponents in the last 2 weeks, but found a way to be capable of having more high-scoring chances against Toronto than Toronto had with them. Really quickly, when we look at Carolina in the last, I think they played 5 games in the last 2 weeks. In terms of Corsi 4, apart from New Jersey, they haven't been doing too well. So I like Montreal when I'm looking at this. And in terms of high danger chances, 4 dominated the Islanders, but they were dominated against their 4 other opponents. So this is interesting to see, and could maybe influence your decision, but still good data to be capable of having. Let's take a look at Vegas. Sports Insight is the site. They're very expensive, but the information here is very valuable. When we're looking at San Jose and Buffalo, look at the sharp money that's been coming in on San Jose. San Jose, at this time, has 45% of the tickets from all the offshore sports books that I follow, and a total of 79% of the cash has been wagered on San Jose. So we're seeing a big gap between these two numbers. So usually when you got almost double the money than the number of tickets that have been wagered, this usually is a sharp indicator. I'm not too sure about copyrights, so I'm not going to get into all the other signals and everything else. I don't want to get in trouble over here, but when we're looking at this gap, and we're looking at how it's driving the money line from -20 to -40 to -36. We're seeing some books are readjusting. We're seeing that money's coming in and pushing the money lines over for adjustment. So when we're looking at San Jose, we got some sharp money coming in. This could change. This does change throughout the day. Like you can see, it's all updating live. But this could also influence the way that I'm going to approach a team, maybe. But I'm very strong on the real numbers and the real floors. So most of all, my decision is looking at block shots and shots on goal and consistency. However, this really helps me sometimes in overweighing some players in terms of GPPs, or sometimes I change my lineup for single entries depending on the amount of people that are in. If we're looking at Philadelphia, this could be a change. I got to validate this, but we're seeing some interesting volume coming in on Ottawa also. Can Ottawa be a great or a sneaky GPP choice? I personally would think yes. When we're looking at Carolina and Montreal, 50% of the bets are coming in on both teams. However, the bulk of the money is on Carolina. The line it opened from the Habs at -25, and now we're seeing Carolina across the board being favorite. Total, this is volume. It potentially we don't have much time left, but when we're breaking down the numbers of tickets at the other sports books, we'll see that it's pretty much 50-50 in terms of tickets, not in terms of cash. So there's a number of people coming in and dropping money on these games. When we're seeing this number right here, there's a clear indication that sharps are pushing on Carolina. This is potentially one of my goalies tonight in cash. Do I have any concerns here? But look, you want to do something crazy and fade Tampa Bay and go with Anaheim and be very different. It's something that you could do, but I see them stand no chance here. So this is it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you got any questions, hit me up in our VIP chat group. Take care, guys, and good luck tonight.